Well, welcome this morning. Just a reminder to folks, we'll have you go on mute, and then as you come in, I'm going to stop your video. It would be helpful if you can stop your own video so that I don't have to take you out because it makes it harder to get started again. Okay. Eric, I'll call you in a minute. All right. Okay. Well, let's get started this morning, this Earth Day morning. I am Brianne Sanchez, the Director of Nonprofit Relations here at the Community Foundation of Greater Des Moines, and it is a pleasure to be with you this morning. Again, happy Earth Day and happy Administrative Professionals Day. I wanted to give a shout out on that note to two people who do amazing things during these community circle conversations behind the scenes. Barb Hobson is here with us, and then also Bridget Robinson. If I were to try and manage all the elements of community circles solo while talking to you all, I would look like an octopus or something crazy. So they do a lot behind the scenes for us. And I really just wanted to share my appreciation for them. So thanks again for being here. We will get started with the next slide. And Dustin, I'll call you in here in just a minute. Oop.
Okay.
All right. Oops. we're having a few technical difficulties on the slides this morning, so we'll get those back. All right, here we go. We're here. Okay, so I just wanted to do a quick recap while everybody is coming in. Last week we talked about leading in times of crisis, that it takes focus, embracing innovation, empathy, and acknowledging the resiliency of our teams. Communication was really a big theme that came up as well, and really internal communications. And then I noticed in our notes, a lot of you are drawing inspiration from quotes and humor. And so I just wanted to give you a little chuckle this morning. So I said, inspirational quote. This is from our friend Cookie Monster. Maybe you all are having kind of the same feelings and eating a cookie when life gets real unpleasant here in the situation that we have. So let's just keep rolling along. Today, we will kick off with some quick and timely updates on relief programs. Then we'll have our presenters from Flynn Wright join us. And then you'll really have a choice of either joining one of the breakout rooms and small group discussions, and we'll be extending our conversation about communication and kind of what each of our organizations is doing, focusing a little bit more externally this week. You'll also have the opportunity to stick around in the main room or leave your breakout and come back to the main room. And we'll have a presentation which Dustin will kind of tee up around I think unemployment is what we're going to be looking at. So let's keep moving here. And Dustin, if you wanted to just take a minute to get started and kind of kick off what we're going to hear later in the second half.
Yeah, I'll be really brief so that we can get to the real show. I'm interested in hearing from the guys from Flynn Wright. But two quick things. The Senate passed an update yesterday to put more money into the PPP for those of you that weren't successful in getting in that first round. Look for that to pass by the end of the week. So if you're interested in that program, make sure that you're putting together your documents. Also, we've had a lot of really good individual conversations, so please reach out to United Way and the Community Foundation about setting up a time with us, in particular about talking about getting a PPP or potentially talking about just compliance if you have received one. And as she mentioned, in the second half, we're going to have Ryan West and Stephanie Callahan from Iowa Workforce Development. They're going to cover all the different things related to the new unemployment for not your prototypical employees, and then also talking about nonprofit reimbursement that the federal government passed under the CARES Act as well. So that will be recorded, I believe, as well, so that if you don't want to miss your breakout room, you'll be able to see those questions for the back half as well.
Thank you so much, Dustin. You're already old hat at this, and I already have an idea for us for our weekly chuckle next week. We're having a lot of fun now, and I think we're hitting a groove. So, all right, let's go along here. Sally, do you want to join us via video? And let's see if we can get you started to introduce Eric, and then Jeff, if you wanted to join us as well. Talk a little bit about what we'll hear today. Tee us up. Thanks, Allie.
Thanks, Brianne, and thank everyone for being here this morning. I think if there's a silver lining to what we're going through, maybe it's that the opportunity to come together more frequently and to work as a community towards tackling some of the challenges that we're all facing and find commonality, learning together and being together. So thank you all for joining us this morning. And I'm delighted to have Jeff White, who is Vice President of Business Development and Strategy, and Eric Nelson, Director of Digital Marketing from Flynn Wright, joining us this morning. I think that most of you probably know that Flynn Wright is a full-service advertising, marketing, PR, research, interactive web company. They do all the things, and they do them extremely well. They have a lot of corporate clients that we're very familiar with. We've seen, Joseph's and Fairway and MediaCom, but they also have a great deal of expertise with nonprofits. They've done good work with the Blank Park Zoo and Friends of Des Moines Parks, and one of my personal ones that stands out for me that they did is the Guardian Project with the Des Moines Police Department, and showing all those amazing photos of our police department. So during a pandemic or not, marketing is one of the top things that we hear that nonprofits need help with, and I can hardly think of anyone better than the team at Flynn Wright to help us navigate this topic a little bit. The deck that Flynn Wright, Jeff, and Eric are going to share was developed for business clients generally, but the content resonates and is relevant to nonprofits as well. Message is message, and call to action is essential, and I think that there are going to be some great things that we can take away from this. So Jeff and Eric, thank you so much for joining us this morning and for sharing your expertise with this group. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you.
All right, thank you, Sally. It's great to be with you all today. So for about the next 20 minutes, we're going to talk about a variety of things related to this new normal and what has become a evolving normal. It's funny how things that seem so far-fetched became normal so quickly over the last few weeks. But we're going to talk particularly about how to market using digital marketing, but really all types of communications, keep audiences engaged during this time. So let's go ahead and click to the agenda slide. So we're going to go through the situation that we've all been experiencing, the data that we've seen that shows that there's opportunity to stay connected and even evolve how we do things and be ready for when we go back to the old normal, which we hope is relatively soon. But we're going to be with this for a very long time, so we need to adjust. But there is opportunity there. Didn't seem like there was in the beginning. And then we're going to talk about some things that you can do in your organizations to take advantage of what's happening now and then capitalize on it as we come out of it. So let's click to the next slide, and frankly put, we have this new normal, and then let's just go right into it. Let me talk for a second about why we did this in the first place, why we did this presentation. The Des Moines Register has a story this morning that talks about the 3-month mark of this. It actually seems like 3 years, but funny enough, we all didn't really take it seriously, as you know, until about the beginning to the middle of March. And that's when it really started to affect our everyday lives. And particularly our clients, for-profit and nonprofit, came to us and said, what should we do? Or what can we do? It was kind of like 9/11 when Saturday Night Live came back on and they said, is it okay to be funny? Everybody was wondering, is this the right time to be doing anything? Should we market? Should we sell? Should we go dark? And so we went out to our clients and we said, well, let's ask a variety of questions first. Initially, is what you have desired, either from a product or service standpoint or from a message standpoint? And can people get it? Is it accessible? Because that will certainly drive how we communicate going forward. But what you see on the screen here is what organizations did initially. They said, we're here for you. We understand that there's something going on. We're not sure exactly what. We're not sure how long it's going to last, but we're trying to adapt to it best we can. But more importantly, we're thinking of you. But you might remember, it was a long time ago, it seems like, those initial messages were quite vague in what was going to happen going forward because people simply did not know. As we move to the next slide, and as organizations got into phase 2, we were realizing we're going to be here for a little while. And not only do we need to adjust temporarily, but we need to adjust for the foreseeable future. So all of these messages started evolving. We are still here. You can still engage with us. We still want to engage with you. But we were all reacting at that point to, this is something that we're going to be with for quite a long time. And we need to make sure that our constituents are engaged with our organization. Now let's just figure out how to do it. But most importantly, let's identify whether there's opportunity. So as we move into the next phase, that's when everybody said, okay, now what? What kind of data can we find to identify, either within our own organizations or elsewhere through secondary means? What can we put our fingers on that will show us how we communicate with our different audiences, whether they are purchasers or influencers or donors, and what exactly are we asking them to do, and what are we communicating to them as we go forward? So as we click to the next slide, you'll see that we'll start to get into the data because we did identify that there is opportunity here, and that everybody at that point, which is about 4 weeks ago, still wanted to hear from organizations that they worked with, in fact, probably more than ever. Simply put, people were bored. They were all evolving to this work style at home. Some people were unfortunately losing their positions, but they desperately wanted to stay connected with people. And so there was an opportunity then, and there is an opportunity now. Sally actually asked me last week if we have updated this data since we got it about 6 weeks ago. And we have not, but we know that there is still opportunity because we're seeing it with our clients. And Eric's going to speak to that as we get into the stats. So Eric, do you want to start taking us through the numbers that pointed to the opportunity that was then and is still now?
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. Thanks. And thank you, everybody. With so much news and information, including conflicting information coming out these days, we think it's easy to assume what people's current behaviors are, or worse, succumb to your fears that no one's listening and no one wants to hear from you. But instead, let's listen to the data. So overall, content consumption is actually up, and it's up in a big way. 60% more content is being consumed right now than in the recent past. And we can take a look at a couple of digital marketing tactics specifically. TV viewing is up 11%, and then streaming TV, which we define as Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, Hulu, those types of services, is up 13%. And if you have kids like I do, you couldn't be more thankful that Disney streamed Frozen 2 early, and that Trolls World Tour is out for rent early too. In fact, you might be able to hear my toddler playing the piano right now. Email activity is also up overall, 27%. And then if anybody has questions later, we'd be happy to answer them. But the two big metrics that we look at when it comes to email success are open rates and click-through rates. So did we get people to open their emails? That's happening at an 11% rate higher than previous. And then click-through rates, once people got into the email, are they clicking through to our desired destination? And that percentage is up 35% currently too. And then social follows, following brands, organizations, artists, musicians, and more are up 14%, while overall web traffic is up 24%. So yes, people are captive at home. And yes, some people are doing things like cleaning out their closets and doing yard work, but the data shows that internet usage is up and content consumption is up too. And why? So we listen to the data about social follows and email engagement. People want to hear from you. Can we go to the next slide, and we'll dig in a little bit more about email engagement specifically. Here's the funniest part about those email engagement numbers. When you remove emails from the equation that are COVID-19 related, that we're all familiar with now, the total market is actually sending 19% lower email volume, yet email activity is up. And what that tells us is that the opportunity is there. So think for a second, if you've received an email in the past week that you typically would have deleted, but you opened instead. I know personally, I'm reading more of the e-newsletters or news digests, or even things like my nextdoor.com emails that I'd normally delete. I'm reading them right now because I have the time, and the opportunity is there because the appetite is there for that information. We can go to the next slide and talk a little bit more about web traffic and social follows. So we talked about both of those being up, but let's take a look at how overall social media usage is up 66%. And that's across all the big players: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even new kids on the block like TikTok. Again, the keyword here is opportunity, because people want to escape their current reality. They're turning to their screens in big ways. And while we're all seeing a lot of silly things and memes and whatnot being shared person to person in social, this also provides an opportunity for organizations like yours to provide your valuable, helpful, and engaging message about your organization that's relevant to your desired user. On the next slide, I don't know who the economics majors are in the group, but this is an instance where the supply and demand formula are out the door right now. And it's interesting because in a digital world, a demand for more content, it means higher web traffic, which actually means more inventory for supply. And because of that, digital media is currently highly discounted. So it currently costs 25% less to acquire email data. It currently costs 30% less to syndicate your content and get it in front of more eyeballs. It currently costs 20% less to retarget people who maybe have come to your website and didn't take your desired action. So again, high supply and high demand, yet strangely reduced competition, because people are unfortunately listening to their fears right now and staying away rather than listening to the data and taking action, which is what we're encouraging people to do. So again, the opportunity, that's our key word here. We know exactly where customers are right now. They're at home. We're working from home, we're eating from home, we're socializing from home, whether that's via Zoom or Teams or FaceTime or otherwise online, and we are consuming more content from home. So as marketers, as organizations, as people who in a communication role are responsible for talking about our organizations, we must adjust to this new normal of our current stay-home culture and bring our brands to customers' homes. So as it says here, current affairs simply aren't normal. Why would your marketing be? Well, what do we mean by that? So normally marketing probably includes a lot more direct messaging around acquisition, whether that's please donate, please pledge, that sort of thing, retention, more donations, winning people back into the fold or convincing them to do more. But as Sally said up front, message is message. And this is an opportunity to use digital platforms to get your message out in a valuable and engaging way. Let's take a look at the next slide. Thank you. So what we're seeing currently is opportunity. This is interesting, and you'll see here in the next couple of slides. If you're communicating in a way that acknowledges sort of the strangeness of the situation that we're currently in, but in a way that provides value to your end user and also illustrates your brand productively in some way, that's where you win. In fact, when subject lines in emails acknowledge the current situation in a productive, valuable way that matches the value of the brand to the audience, B2B, business to business email open rates are up 41%, and business to consumer open rates are up 34%. So let's dig a little bit deeper into what that message content looks like on the next slide, because this is kind of I was going to say the meat, and then all of a sudden here, cans of spam. Sorry, that was a coincidence. Here's what's important to think about when we're saying acknowledge the strangeness, but in a way that provides value. There are good ways to do so, and there are bad, spammy ways to do so too. So spam filters right now in your emails are working overtime, and they're being very sensitive to words like corona, virus, COVID, pandemic, mask, sanitizer. The theory here being, unless you're in healthcare and you're treating the virus, or unless you're manufacturing masks or you're manufacturing sanitizer, you probably don't have a place to discuss these things. So really, as you're thinking about your messaging, one of the factors in your messaging matrix ought to be, is this relevant to both me and to my target audience? Is it believable for me? And is it something I can own? If so, move forward. And if not, reconsider what your message looks like. Calls to action are another place where we need to move away currently right now from the things like FOMO and urgency and borderline scare tactics that we've become so used to. Hurry, last chance, don't miss, today only. And instead add value in ways that focus on words like free or online, home, working from home. Essential is a great word. Insight, tips, people are looking for that sort of information, even things like bored, right? And boredom. There's enough to be alarmed about right now. So let's not use the call to action as a way to scare people more into taking action. Let's be empathetic with them. And then next slide. And keep your content bite-sized. So here in this slide, we're actually talking about, or specifically talking about email marketing. So not to sound contradictory to the stats we've shared so far, because yes, screen time is up and engagement is up, but that doesn't necessarily mean people have a lot of time for us to be long-winded. So part of being relevant and even empathetic is to acknowledge, by way of the length of your copy and message, that people have a lot on their minds right now, and you're willing to give them the most important, most digestible information across these media.
So as out of necessity, we're all doing new things now, and you're probably all trying something new just based on that necessity. But we would encourage you to embrace it. There are a lot of events that are being canceled this spring and this summer, and nothing replaces an in-person event, especially a fundraising event. But know that your audiences are likely hungry for some type of engagement, and they're likely missing that event. So you should find additional ways to get in front of them, whether that's a virtual event, webinar series, lunch and learns, all kinds of different things. And we would also encourage you not to compete with the coronavirus. I'll give you a good example. I'm on the Des Moines East High School Foundation Board. And one thing we identified immediately as we were canceling our signature event for this spring, by the way, was will people want to give to scholarship funds, knowing that they could also be giving to all of these things that might be more urgent or more immediate needs. And so we're trying to identify the relevance there and make people connect that I would imagine that regardless of the primary mission of all of the organizations that are on this call, they somehow will benefit individuals deeply affected by this. And you should encourage your audiences to remember that, and you should embrace it so they don't think that you're competing with COVID-19 or the coronavirus efforts for their very precious money. As we click to the next slide, another opportunity in all of this as well is this is great time to get research, a great time to get feedback. However, don't be tone deaf. Don't ask questions of your audience that make it seem like we're either pretending like this isn't happening or we don't know that it's happening. Ask questions about it. Ask if they feel like your organization is doing enough related to this topic, which will remind them that you're trying to find that relevance, and you're trying to maybe alter your mission even just temporarily to make sure that it benefits things more specific to this than otherwise. And then last, this is the time to prepare. We click to the next slide. This is the time to prepare for when it's over. We're not sure when that's going to be. So certainly we're all altering. And for organizations on this call, that might mean a variety of things. It might mean altering communications practices, but you might find things that are beneficial even as we come out of this and we can get in person. It might still be beneficial to have virtual events or Zoom lunch and learns or whatever else. It might be altering the mission and the message a little bit to make sure that people understand that the good that you're doing now, whether it's the arts, whether it's something that is healthcare related, the good that we're doing now benefits individuals deeply affected by this, and it's for the good of all, and there's still some relevance there. But that might be something that we need to do, is alter our mission and how we state it and how we state our messaging going forward, so we have new audiences when we come out of this. This is an opportunity there too, by the way, is to identify those new audiences that we can reach out to that perhaps weren't audiences before because they didn't like to come to live events, they didn't like to go to live fundraisers. But if we're doing things virtually perhaps, or if we're doing things a different way and communicating in a different way, they might be more responsive. So with that, that wraps up our presentation and the message that we have for you today. We appreciate your time.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Eric and Jeff and Sally and Angie. I think if you wanted to come back, we can just wrap up for a couple of minutes before we head out. I think what Jeff and what Flynn Wright was saying was so helpful in light of Giving Tuesday coming up. And I think that Angie is going to share just briefly about Giving Tuesday and kind of the opportunity to take the next 12 days to really think about what we have heard and kind of create a plan out of that, plan of action. So Angie, did you want to make a mention there?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Brianne. And thank you so much, Sally, for bringing Flynn Wright in, and to both of you for sharing. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up that in the coming days, you'll be getting more information. As Brianne said, there is a Giving Tuesday that's going to be celebrated really nationally on May 5, which is just right around the corner. And our team is working diligently with others in the community to help lift up really a Give DSM Day, where we will be offering to each of your organizations some tools that you can use to help promote your own messages to share across the community, but really collectively celebrating the important work of the sector and encouraging individuals to give. So just wanted to plant that seed with you. Be watching for more information. Again, our team is working with some wonderful support to get you some templates and some things that can aid in your effort. So with that, I'll hand it back to Sally, and stay tuned for more from us.
Great. Well, I just want to echo thanks to Jeff and Eric for the opportunity to learn a little bit from the data. I love the focus on what we know as opposed to what we think, because it's very easy right now. This is new, and what we think may or may not be correct about what people are doing. I know personally, I've sent out a lot of emails with no, you don't hear back. And so it's hard to know that people are listening. And so it's great to have those data points and the confirmation that our constituents do want to hear from us, and there are best practices that we can be following so that we do it well and effectively. So I just want to thank you both for the opportunity to hear from you this morning and for the expertise that you bring to the table. And we'll kick it back to Brianne. I think we're going to break into small group conversations. Do you want me to cover what we're going to talk about, Brianne, or do you want to go through that?
Sure, you can tee up the breakout questions. I did see a note in the chat to ask about slides, because you might not have your marketing folks on the call. We will send out these slides and the recording as we do every week. We try and get them out by Friday. Yeah, that'll be available to you. So great resource. Sally, if you wanted to just share the breakout questions.
Okay, so our breakout questions are going to be, and can I ask Jeff and Eric just one more quick question before we go into the breakout sessions, or is that going to throw us off time?
I think we'll be good.
Okay, so Jeff, I was wondering if you have any thoughts. You talked a lot about the digital platforms, which is great, but I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about direct mail at this point, or if you're getting any feedback about like the actual paper. A lot of our organizations do annual fund appeals, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot with that, but wondering if you have any thoughts about like the hard copy stuff at this point.
And I might say Jeff may have already departed the call. Sorry, I'm looking now to see if he's still here. So
no, that's okay. I'm here.
Oh, he's here. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm here. I just can't start my video, but
Okay.
I'll answer the question anyway. I'm glad you asked that question. Mail always works. That is a common misconception. A common misconception is that mail is no longer valid. But think about how many emails you get versus how many pieces of mail are in your mailbox when you get home. And the best part now is that you're probably already home. And one of the highlights of your day might even be seeing the mailman come. So absolutely, mail always works, still works, and especially now. So I think putting out mailings is a great idea.
Great, Jeff, thank you so much for letting me put you on the spot there, and thanks again for being here this morning. So we're gonna break out and hopefully take some of what Jeff has shared, what Jeff and Eric have shared about cultivating new relationships and bite-sized content, and confirming for us that customers do want to hear from us, clients, constituents, however you refer to them. And now is definitely the time to try some new things. So we'll break out and talk about, in all of the breakout groups, we'll talk about the same questions. The first one is, in what creative ways has your organization pivoted communication to embrace this new digital reality? We can't talk face-to-face, we can't meet with those donors, and we can't connect with our volunteers in the same way. So in what creative ways has your organization pivoted that maybe we can all learn from? And then what's something you're thinking about trying but aren't quite ready to leap into? And maybe you can expand on that in your groups to share what's holding you back or what you're worried about. And maybe we can get some group learning going to encourage people to do some of those things, try some of those new things that are going to hopefully yield results.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to go ahead and open all of the rooms. Reminder, we'll be recording the session with Ryan West in the main room, and then you have the opportunity to join us here again at any point. So I will zoom you out. My dear co-hosts, you may have the opportunity to actually help folks turn their video on in your rooms. I have tried to give you those privileges, so we'll see if that works if people are having trouble with video. All right, see you later.